Hello, Miami. It's Let's Chat with Disco George. We're back here in 2024, and we're rocking it. We're starting really, really good. Today, I have Manny Cid, the mayor of Miami Lakes, and he is running for Miami-Dade. And I have him here today, and we're going to talk about some really good subjects. I'm going to grill him a little bit. We're going to ask the questions that you need to know. So we have him here. Welcome to the show, Manny.
No, I'm excited. Disco George, it's an honor, and to kick off 2024 with you, I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much for coming. I know you have a very busy schedule. So tell me, let's start off with you. I know you're Hialeah born, so you're a local boy, man. And so that's, you've grown through the community. Now you're the mayor. Tell me where you went to school, so we know what's the base where you started.
So my first school, it was actually on Red Road in Hialeah, Salvation Army. They had a daycare at that Salvation Army, and that was the first. I think it was pre-K. My mom put me there. Actually, that Salvation Army just got demolished a couple weeks ago. They're building all these apartments and really cool stuff. But after that, I went to Hareb, which is on 68th and 8th in Hialeah. Went there, all small working class school in the center of Hialeah. Went there to about freshman year in high school. Then went to Pace in Opelika. Nice. Went to Monsignor Edward Pace High School.
Did you play any sports?
I did. I played a little bit of football, played some basketball. I coach basketball now, but I love playing sports, and I love what you learn from sports on the character building side.
Exactly. And did you go to Miami-Dade?
I did. I went to, it was an interesting path because I started off at Miami-Dade. I was a bit of a rebel. I took a bunch of classes that I wanted to take. I never graduated and I left. Then I went to FIU, took a bunch of classes as well, but I got a job offer and I had a choice to make. Stay at FIU as a junior, finish up, get my degree heading into my senior year, or accept a job in the state legislature as an aide. And I was studying political science, so I ended up dropping all my classes that semester and I left to Tallahassee. Years later, I made a commitment to my dad, who's no longer with us. I told him, Pop, before you pass, I'm going to make sure I get my associates and my bachelor. So I had 2 classes left at Miami-Dade. It's like 3 years ago. I took those 2 classes, 2 online math classes. It was incredibly difficult, right? Not taking math since I was 19, 20, and then taking math again when I was 28 years old.
Wow.
Did that, got my AA. My dad got to see that, and then I had about 4 or 5 classes left for my bachelor's, and I busted my behind, got that. Fell in love with education, got my master's in ethical leadership, and I'm actually doing my PhD now in leadership, which is really cool.
And where are you getting that at?
This one at William Woods University. A good friend of mine is there. That's a very historic university in the central part of the country in Missouri. That's where Ronald Reagan did his first ever political speech. Nobody knew he was an actor back then. So that's the first time that he gave a hint that he wanted to get into politics. So really cool, really incredible university. But good friend of mine that was here in Miami moved over there, and he runs the Leadership Institute. So I told him I'd definitely take some classes with him. So I'm about almost a year into the PhD.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And are you married?
I am happily married for the last 17 years with my soulmate, Melissa. Shout out to you. I know
Melissa.
She's going to be, we love you. She's going to be watching from home. 3 kids, 15, 13, and 2. So there's a bit of a gap between, but it's actually really cool right now.
Let's talk about the 2-year-old. How's that going?
Amazing, because I think I'm a little bit more mature, right? So you're a little bit, life's a little slower,
Right.
in terms of enjoying those moments. Manny, my oldest, who's in high school already, we had him. I think Melissa was 20, 21, and I was like 23, 24. So yeah.
Wow, it's a huge gap.
It is.
But I'm sure you have more patience now, right?
Oh, undoubtedly. So it's, man, you kind of enjoy, the older you get, you enjoy moments, you appreciate moments even more. I appreciated those moments always, but now at 40 years old, you're like, you know what life's all about. So
it's funny, and you look back and you're like, it's funny how you think you know everything in your 20s, and then you hit your 40s and you're like, your mindset is completely different.
100%. And you have to become a lifelong learner, right? One thing as a human being, you never stop learning. You never stop improving. When somebody tells you, hey, I know everything, you're like, ¿qué está pasando aquí? You know what I mean? So, but you never stop learning. And I've really embraced that aspect of it.
So you got your degree in political science and you got into politics. So what was your first step really getting into that? Because I'm sure there's lots of people watching that probably want to follow your footsteps. What was your first step to get into politics and now becoming the mayor?
So my first step, it was interesting because I don't come from a very powerful or wealthy family, right? A lot of people that are in politics throughout our country, right? They're either well connected or they're powerful or their uncle or somebody. Tenía un padrino, how we say it in Spanish. Exactly. They had a godfather, like, hey, I got you.
Right.
I didn't have that. So I had to learn the hard way, right? My first lesson was campaigning on 49th Street in Hialeah, holding up signs for people I didn't even know. I was 18 years old. I wanted to learn, and I was like, I want to volunteer. And I stood there holding up a sign for weeks and standing in early voting, doing whatever I had to do. But I got a big break when I was 20, 21 years old, where I interviewed for a position and in the Florida legislature as an aide to a state representative, and I got it. And the rest is history. So I spent 7 years up in Tallahassee, working really hard. When a lot of people were out hanging out, I was in my room reading up on the statutes, reading up on the different laws, the different bills that were going through the process, because I had to make sure, because I didn't have that, somebody in politics mentoring me. So I had to make sure that I had to outwork everybody. So that work ethic really helped well. And I ran for office in 2012, ran against an incumbent, 12-year incumbent, and we won. I knocked on 6,000 doors, ran for mayor in 2016, shocked the world. I mean, I ran against the founding mayor, the guy that was there, and then the interim mayor, and nobody thought I'd win, and won by the largest margin in city history and raised the most money in Miami Lakes history. Then I was the first mayor to win re-election unopposed.
Tell me, how did that feel that day that they told you won? I'm sure it must have been an incredible feeng.
It is. I believe it or not, and it's weird for me, I enjoy the journey more than the actual victory. I don't know why. Like I love it. It was awesome winning, right? Having my parents, family, friends. But the journey, the process is what I love the most, right? Campaigning, getting out there. So when it was over, to me, it was bittersweet because I loved just meeting people. I loved talking to people. Like, it became part of my life. Like, every day I'd wake up, I'd go to work, and I had my clothes in my car. I'd change and go knock on doors 7 days a week, right? So I loved that so much that when I won, I was like, that's it. You know what I mean? Like, it was awesome.
Isn't it a great feeling like you're out in the city and you see una señora that you've knocked on her door and she'll go, "Oye, Manny, ¿cómo anda?" And you have their relationship, and I'm sure you remember them from going door to door, and you have that one-on-one, and you'll probably remember, she told you, "Oye, la gente están por aquí, they're speeding down the street. What can you do?"
And I'll give you an example. A family member of yours, Lázaro, shout out to Lázaro Paz, here with us. Laz, met him on the campaign trail, and today he's a great, great friend. He's family, right? And you meet people like that throughout the process, which is probably the most fulfilling side of it all, right? Is just meeting folks, getting to know them, and becoming lifelong friends. And I think that's the part that's most fulfilling of the public service side, is helping people and becoming friends forever.
What do you think has been your biggest accomplishment being mayor now at Miami Lakes?
There's a lot. I've been very fortunate. I'm very aggressive in terms of pushing forward initiatives. Like, I tell people, I go, look, we got elected to deliver on promises. So we can't sit up here and be afraid not to lead. So I literally, every city council meeting since 11 years ago, I put on 3 items for discussion on improving things. Like, last council meeting, I changed our procurement ordinance to make sure that when we go bid for goods and services, that we look for companies that take care of individuals with special needs, because there's high unemployment in the special needs community. But every month, I find something new that improves the town. So part of that is changing the culture, where there were people who will get elected, and it happens today. I have colleagues of mine that feel this, who get elected, and they're there for the sake of power. They wanted power for the sake of power, just to sit there, just to have a title, and they never do nothing. I have colleagues of mine that have been up there for 7 years and have never done anything. They just vote yes or no. They sit there. They're happy to be there. And I'm like, man, God gives you platforms in life to help others. Use it. So to me, it was changing that culture where now there's more people getting elected in the town of Miami Lakes who really want to serve, who aren't just there for the sake of power, to attain it, to sit there, to look pretty. And we've really changed that culture forever in terms of building the bonds with the community. I can get into the weeds of literally 100 different initiatives. Like almost everything that's happened in the town of Miami Lakes in the last 11 years, I've had my fingerprints on it.
Wow. And do you feel there's more community involvement now?
Oh, undoubtedly. So one of the things that I do, and it changed the way things happen, we have like 10, 12 committees that residents get involved. Historically, people only appoint people that are their friends or, some insiders. Like I'm the other way around, and I've told my colleagues, I appoint whoever comes in through that door. Whoever wants to serve, that's who I appoint. Shout out to our vice mayor. Our current vice mayor in 2017, he moved to Miami Lakes from another community, and I have Saturday office hours, first and third Saturday of the month. He came to see me on one of those Saturday office hours, and he was like, I moved to Miami Lakes. I love this community. How can I help? It's like, listen, I don't know you, but if you really want to help, I'm going to appoint you to one of the committees. I appointed him. He flourished. He became the chair. All these years later, now he's 7 years later, he's a vice mayor of Miami Lakes.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was opening up a door. But I do that for everybody. I'm like, whoever wants to participate and do good, right, and help, you got it. You with me, you have open doors forever.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's so important nowadays, especially now with social media. I've noticed that there's a more mature and involved community, and I think it's fantastic because now when. Like, I'll give you an example. Last night I went to my city. I live in the city of West Miami. I don't know if you know Eric Diaz-Padrón.
Yes.
And he did the first state of, what's it called?
State of the city.
State of the city that they've ever done, ever in my city. And I figured, there'll be 20, 30, maybe 40 people show up. There was over 300 people that showed up.
Wow.
And it was incredible because it wasn't like the meeting that people, they're complaining. No, it was a fantastic meeting, and everybody was like on point. You know what I mean? And it was like I was listening because if you're not networking, you're not working. You know, and it's fantastic. The city's doing really well, but he's changed the culture, just like you said. And it's turned into like everybody wants to help.
That's awesome.
And it starts with the communication.
Yep.
Let me ask you, I'm sure that you have huge communication at your mayor's cafe.
It definitely, that's I love owning the cafe. I never thought that it would bring people together, right? Food, what's really cool, we live in a very divisive time, right? Where if you're a Democrat, sometimes they hate Republicans and vice versa, then independents feel left out. But what I realized, having a place where we serve food, is that when people break bread, they realize that they have more in common than not. And I've seen so many people come together at my place that it's phenomenal. So I love owning a restaurant. I thought it was going to be easy. I thought it was going to be shaking hands and showing up, but the COVID-19 pandemic hit, and we were only 11 months in. So I had a choice to make: either give back the keys to the landlord because I didn't have employees, or I had to cook. So I had to cook. I had to learn how to cook, and I cooked for about a year and a half until the pandemic was over, to ensure that the restaurant would stay afloat.
Let me ask you, since you brought that up now, let's say you're talking to somebody and you meet a Democrat or independent, and they're like, well, I'm running for mayor, even though it's what do they call it? It's nonpartisan position. But they're like, what do you say to become a happy medium to maybe give yourself an opportunity for them to vote for you?
Oh, it's easy. It's pocketbook issues, right? Nobody wants to see their homes being utilized as a debit card. And that's the current culture that exists in the county. Every time there's a major issue, there's a crisis, let's raise taxes. Let's do a bond. Like they just proposed a $2.5 billion bond based off of property taxes. to do who knows what, because we know the county has a history of not fulfilling their promises. But they raise taxes every single time, which has led to a major affordability crisis in Miami-Dade County.
Exactly.
So to me, it's pocketbook issues, and that brings everybody together, because when you talk about ensuring that you run government more efficient, right? So I tell this, and I know some people get a little bit upset at me when I say this, but the reality is that running a restaurant, it's actually even harder than running a government. At the restaurant, if I make bad decisions, I go bankrupt. I lose my restaurant. In government, there are people who make hundreds of millions of dollars worth of bad decisions on a yearly basis, but they get pay raises, they get large pensions, and nothing happens. Those are unsinkable
and full
boats.
benefits.
And full benefits for life. Yet these people, they would have never survived in the private sector. So I tell people all the time, and they get mad at me, but you cannot compare owning a small business to government. Government's I mean, I could tell you it's super easy to manage as long as you're ethical and you do the right thing compared to the private sector.
Wow, incredible.
Yeah.
Well, now I want to get into the good stuff. The good stuff that everybody wants to talk about.
Jump in some disco time. I want to hear those disco stories.
No, you're good. Eso después.
All right.
Bueno, let's talk about traffic. What do you think is something that could be done? Because we've had huge issues with traffic. The Palmetto is always under construction. I don't know what's going on with the MDX. Talk to me. What's going on?
So you stand at any intersection in Dade County in the morning or in the afternoon during rush hour, you realize that the last 30 years of traffic infrastructure engineering in Dade County has been a disaster and a total failure, right? I mean, that is, everybody agrees with that. Look, one of the things I'm going to do day one is eliminate transportation impact fee districts. So what happens today, just say here in South Miami, there's a development tomorrow. That development pays into a transportation impact fee zone, and sometimes never gets utilized in the area where the development's being made. So, and that's been historic here in Dade County, and that's been one of the major issues. And that money gets sent to other parts of the county, to bigger projects, this and that. But where the impact was made, none of the dollars get invested. So day one, I'm going to say that money, and I'm going to change the ordinance and repeal it, that money has to be utilized within a 1 mile radius of that development to mitigate the impact to those local residents. But that's day one. And that'll have a huge impact where you'll see hundreds of millions of dollars stay in local communities to mitigate these types of issues and to improve the local infrastructure, which doesn't happen today. I mean, one of the reasons I found out about that, I remember we had some huge developments in Miami Lakes happen, and I started asking the developer, I go, show me, I want to see the impact fees that you pay to the county. And when I realized, I go, you're paying $5 million in impact fees to the county. Where's this money going?
Exactly.
And I started asking, and it was a rabbit hole. Like nobody
asked that question.
Don't. Everybody's running around like, oh my God, how do you know about this? So now that's something that I'm really focused on to transform, because that will have an immediate impact on the lives of the residents here in Miami-Dade County. The other issue with MDX and GMX, I mean, they're back and forth. They're going to court. The losers in all of this, the only winners are the attorneys, right? The losers in all of this are the residents of Miami-Dade County that continue to lose, because in the last 5 years, there hasn't been any new transportation project by these agencies. They've become maintenance organizations. And I've already said publicly, if these organizations, MDX, whichever one exists long-term, or GMX is only there to maintain what exists, then let's retire the debt and let's remove the tolls. Let's talk to the governor, who has $13, $14, $15 billion in reserves, in the state reserves. Let's retire that debt and just remove the tolls and eliminate the agencies, because maintenance funds for these roads already exist with gas transportation taxes. So today, when you go pump the gas, last night I just pumped gas, I know, and it doesn't show me on the ticket how much it is, but I know a percentage of that goes to a gas tax to maintain roads. The dream of having control of our own highways was to develop new infrastructure to help with traffic congestion. But if that dream is not fulfilled, then it's time to retire the debt and remove the tolls.
Excellent. All right, the next thing that's kind of involved, the police. Okay, the police. You know, we've had some interesting stuff going on. I definitely want to speak about what's going on with the street gangs, or the bicycles, and the Fast and Furious people that are creating havoc in the streets. There has to be something that could stop it? Maybe sequester the cars, a flat fee maybe or something, because it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. I've been actually stuck in traffic with these people going by, and they're kicking doors, they're going crazy. What can be done? Even though this year was a little better, I think more can be done. What do you think?
Undoubtedly, and I think this is going to be a pivotal year for our county, because for the first time ever, we'll have a partisan elected sheriff countywide. And UMSA is actually the largest. Everybody thinks that city of Miami is the largest city in Miami-Dade County. Hialeah is second. No. UMSA is the largest city, which is unincorporated Miami-Dade County. There's 1 million people that reside in unincorporated Dade. So that sheriff will oversee 1 million folks just within UMSA that he needs to provide services for. So that's something we have to be very cognizant of, because it's going to be a partisan position. So imagine having a sheriff who doesn't share our values of policing. Imagine if you have a sheriff who shares the values of policing that exist in Oregon, or exist in certain parts of California, or in Chicago or New York. Some scary stuff, right?
Yeah.
So we have to make sure that we're very vigilant in this election, because it is going to be a historic move here in Miami-Dade County with that election. Secondly, with those street gangs, look, one thing that we do in the town of Miami Lakes is there's a no chase policy in Dade County, right? Nobody wants to have high-speed chases in their communities. Unfortunately, civilians can get hurt, which is something that the county has kind of moved back from. But what could happen is that we go to these people's homes. So a lot of these folks with ATVs or whatnot, our detectives go to the house, and they got to if they were caught doing something wrong, they got to confiscate the ATV. They do it because you cannot allow people to impact the quality of life of others on public roads and to endanger pedestrians. I mean, we live in a county that unfortunately is very dangerous for pedestrians. I mean, you're talking about we don't have proper crosswalks. You're talking about we don't have proper bike lanes. Our bike infrastructure is non-existent. I ride bike at least 3-4 times a week, and I have to ride on the sidewalk. Luckily, in the town of Miami Lakes, we expanded some sidewalks to 10 feet, so you have dual lanes. But that's part of the issue too. We have to take back our streets and not allow criminals to impact the quality of life of regular citizens.
And I wanted to talk about a little about the infrastructure. You just talked about bike lanes. What do you think? Do you think that's a good idea? Because I see that they've installed lots of bike lanes, and I think in theory it's very good, but 99% of the time they're not being used.
Look, there's two ways to look at it. A lot of our roads are way oversized, right? So part of mitigating speeding in our neighborhoods is to reduce the width of the roads. And that psychologically, you'll see drivers drive a little bit better, and they're more cognizant, especially in an area where everybody's texting while driving.
Right.
They're a little bit more cognizant of the lines. So that was part of it too, is making sure it's called Complete Streets. We have that plan in the town of Miami Lakes where we make sure we have a very holistic roadways where they're not way too big, because if you notice where all the speedings happen are these roadways that the width of the roads are so huge that people feel comfortable speeding. And then so what we do is that we design roads with not only pedestrians, bicyclists, but even the folks driving, and beautification. So we protect sidewalks with a buffer of nice trees, of grass. We have bike lanes, so if the bike infrastructure is not on the roads, what we do is we increase the width of the sidewalks to 10 feet. So you have 2 lanes. You have folks walking, and you could bike at the same time. But you have safer roads, because now psychologically the width of that road is a little bit smaller. So even the folks that are texting while driving, they have to pay attention more, because if the car swerves, you see that lane is shrinking. So look, part of that is making sure that when we design these roads, we design it in mind with everybody.
Okay. Let's talk a bit about the airport. The airport's been on the news lately. I know the main terminal is, I don't even know how many years old. I remember going as a kid. My father used to work at the airport, and I used to love it. And it's practically still the same. What can be done? I know that they just got a new contract, and it's supposed to be 24 hours, but that terminal needs some help.
Look, part of the issue that we see too is that The current administration made so many promises in their last election in 2020 that they were trying to fulfill it. And part of that fulfillment is unionizing a lot of the contracts at the airport. And you hit it on the head. When they unionized a lot of these contracts, they weren't working at night. They weren't working on weekends. And what that did was it had a disastrous impact on the maintenance of the airport, which has led to where we're at today. So what happens is, look, there's a lot of well-meaning people who run for public office. There's a lot of well-meaning people who run, who are in positions of power in public service. But the reality is there's not enough folks to have the wherewithal or the experience to deliver on a lot of these promises. And that's what we're seeing today with the airport, what we see with garbage, what we see with all these different types of issues is that there's just dozens and dozens and dozens of people that get in these positions and are completely, how we say, something, lost in the sauce. They don't know what's going on, and they're dependent on the bureaucracy. Where one of the reasons we've been successful in Miami Lakes is that I'm not dependent on the bureaucracy. It's the other way around. I lead every day. I'm the one leading. I'm the one pushing. I'm the one talking about initiatives. I'm the one leading most of these projects going forward and actually calling things out where they're not going well. And if something goes wrong, I'm the one accountable. I'm not blaming,
Right.
I'm the mayor, So that's the type of attitude I'll take to Miami-Dade County to make sure that the airport, which is the engine of the economy here in Miami-Dade County, is something that we can all be proud of.
Excellent. The next thing I want to touch upon is zoning. We've had an explosion of population coming to the city, but we see there's lots of illegal things going on, efficiencies. Even Hialeah, I'm sure you know that they just passed a law. There was people putting 2 and 3 RVs in their homes. What can be done? Maybe changing some of the zoning so construction, maybe, get the city, started motivated to increase construction, maybe. What do you think?
So one of the things that the county did last year, and it's kind of flown under the radar, was they eliminated single-family zoning from UMSA. So there's 1 million people. If you live in unincorporated Dade County today, single-family housing zoning doesn't exist anymore. Why? The county has legalized ADUs, which is additional dwelling units efficiencies, right, in these homes. The mistake the county made was not looking at it holistically, right? There are people who want to live in single-family neighborhoods, but there are other communities in UMSA and everywhere throughout Dade County that already have duplexes, already have low-density apartment buildings. You go to Little Havana, that's a perfect example, where you have these apartment buildings have 4, 6, 8 units, which are great for neighborhoods because it's low density, doesn't have that type of traffic impact, but it provides for a different quality of life to help people uplift themselves through the process. But the county didn't do that. The county just put a blanket, hey, let's just look at the entire zoning map and let's just pass it. And they didn't even give proper notice. I mean, it was a disaster. And that's the type of governance that shouldn't exist, right? They should have looked at those areas that already had the zoning for duplex, that already had the zoning for low density multifamily. That's the type of areas that works. We can't look at government with that blanket perspective. Hey, look, the one size fits all, which is not the reality. I mean,
Exactly. You have to look at the lot size, and because especially with parking is a huge problems in the city. I see people parking, like it's a factory. There's 8 cars in one house.
Parking, sewer. A lot of times what they don't think about is the capacity of our sewer lines. So if you take one single family house and you subdivide it into 4 or 5, now the capacity of the sewer is diminished. So it diminishes even capacity for new businesses to come in. Now those new business owners are going to have to pay an incredible amount of money to fix those different pump stations. Now you're having issues with garbage. Now the garbage pickup, when they're the tipping fees, now they're going in. They're like, wait a second, I'm picking up the same amount of homes, but what they don't know is that those homes are subdivided now, and now they're having to pay. So that was part of it. They never planned properly, and this was just one of the things that they did with a blanket brush. And I think long term it doesn't work, right? You have to have a more holistic perspective on governance than just a blanket perspective.
All right. Well, we're almost out of time, but I want you to take a moment and think what you would like to say to the community that's watching here. I want you to use the main camera here and just speak right to them and tell them why they should vote for you.
Well, they should vote for me because I'm hanging out with Disco George. You know, this is the best show right here in community news. This is the most important election in our generation's history. And I know all the elected officials say that throughout the country, but it really is. I mean, you're talking about 5 new countywide partisan elected positions. You're talking about a county government that is out of control. The growth of county government is growing so fast that it's pushing out working class families, it's pushing out small businesses. But we have an opportunity in 2024 to change that trajectory. Miami-Dade County will never be a New York City, will never be a Los Angeles, because in 2024 we'll do the right thing and we'll turn that around to make sure there's more money in your pocket, and the entire culture of utilizing your homes as a debit card ends right in August 2024 with my mayoralship and my swearing in.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate you coming today. And it's been a great show. I really enjoyed this interview.
No, thank you. Thank you, Joe. And we got to talk more after the show. I want to hear those stories,
well,
man.
I'm going to give them to you right now. Everybody, if you enjoyed the show today, please give us a like. And if you really liked it, please share it with all your friends. Thank you very much. And